Hey guys, welcome back to chapter 4 of The Summer of the Secret Squadron. Mom called us down for lunch. We exploded down the stairs with our newly found treasures to tell her the news. She marveled at our detective skills, amazed that we had actually found the decoder. Emily Ann and Caleb had to see and touch everything we had found and ask a million questions. We could hardly sit down and eat our lunch, but we managed to inhale the sandwiches and chips Mom had prepared for us so that we could move on to the business at hand. After lunch, we retrieved the letters from my room and brought them down to our dining room table so we could begin the work of deciphering the messages. We found the one we had looked at before, the one that had A19 at the beginning, and decided that it would be the first one to be decoded. We set the dial to A19 and began in earnest. I've never noticed before, but all the numbers are listed 5 at a time. Like they are all 5-letter words? Sumner pointed out. Do you think they're all 5-letter words? I wouldn't think so, I responded. Maybe we need to read the code manual we found before we try to decode any of these messages. Let's try the first one and see how it goes, Logan said. If it doesn't work, then we'll resort to the manual. Logan was never one to waste time with instructions. Let's get started. Sumner, you read off the numbers. I'll use the decoder to find the letter, and Logan, you can write down the message. I want to use the decoder, Logan whined. There's 15 messages, I said. We can all take turns. Okay, here goes. The first number is 1. And then here's a picture of all the different numbers in the message that they had to decode. 1. All right. That would be F, I said, matching the number with the letter. 6. O. 16. U. 12. R. That spells 4, Logan exclaimed. Oh, whoop-de-doo, Sumner twirled his finger in the air. Come on, let's keep going, I said, trying to keep us on track. We started again, picking up speed as we went. It took only about 5 minutes to completely decipher the letter from the numbers, but when we had finished, we weren't sure what we had. Here's a picture of the message that they decoded. Just a bunch of jumbled letters, kind of. What a mess! Did we do it right? I wondered. I think so, Sumner said. It doesn't seem that complicated. Some of it makes sense, but most of it still looks encoded, Logan said, looking at the decoded letters. Let's see. Since end of May, I can read that much of it, at least, I said. I see what they've done. They've grouped all the letters in blocks of 5, no matter what the word is, Sumner said. Why would they do that? Asked Logan. I don't know, but that's what they've done, Sumner said. Okay, let's rewrite it, taking out all the spaces, I suggested. Then maybe we can read it better. Here's what it looked like when they took out all the spaces. What do we have now? Logan asked. I made another attempt at reading the jammed up letters. 14th of June, Joyce. Have not heard from you since end of May. We are all concerned. Please correspond, Sumner completed the word. Correspond, Henry, I finished. I think we got it, Logan declared. 14th of June, Joyce. Have not heard from you since end of May. We are all concerned. Please correspond, Henry. Sumner read it smoothly this time. Well, we did it, I said. What did you expect? Some secret plot to assassinate the president? Sumner asked sarcastically. Well, it could happen, Logan said. I guess we shouldn't give up so easily, I scolded myself. We've only decoded one message, and it did tell us a few things. We have 2 names now, Joyce and Henry. The message was written on June 14th. Who knows what the others will tell us? You're right. Let's do another one, Sumner said. Here, let's do this one, and I get to use the decoder this time, Logan said, handing the piece of paper to me. There's no key on this one, I said, searching the page. What do you mean? Logan asked. I handed in the page. On the first one, there was a key, A19. There are no letters on this one at all, only numbers. We began searching through the papers looking for ones with a key. Only 4 other messages were found to have letters of the alphabet anywhere on the page. Unsure of how to decipher the other 10, we decided to work on the 4 with the keys and hope that they gave us a clue as to how to decode the others. With a little effort, we were able to decipher the 4 other messages. Message 1. 3rd of June. Henry, how are things going with your new location? We'll meet you at midnight at the train switch on Friday with your new assignment. Have you heard from Joyce? Jim. Message 2. 18th of June. Henry, trouble with Ivan has detained me, but I managed to escape. Beware, he may be headed your way. Make sure packages are safe. We'll be back in your area soon. Joyce. 10th of June. Jim, have lost radio contact since moving to new location. I fear Ivan has gotten to Joyce. Have not seen her since May 30th. We'll try to make contact. Henry. Message 4. 23rd of June. Jim, received word from Joyce. She was captured but escaped. She should contact you soon. Packages are being moved to more secure location. We'll contact you with more information. Henry. After deciphering these first messages, I guess you could say we were all intrigued, but also a little confused, like we had walked into the middle of a conversation. The messages were exciting. Kidnapping, midnight, mysterious meetings, packages. It sounded like something out of a movie. It also sounded like something that could have really happened. We wanted to believe these things did really happen. We had to keep reminding ourselves that the messages were written by children around our age, probably just neighborhood kids with big imaginations. But knowing this made our findings a little bittersweet. I'm not sure what we had expected. Maybe anything less than a map locating the Ark of the Covenant, and we would have been a little disappointed. I should say, Sumner and I. Logan was still excited about finding the marbles. What do we do now? Logan asked. Not sure, I admitted. Nothing in these first 5 hint at how to decode the others. We need to read the code manual, Sumner advised. It will tell us how to decode the other messages. You're right. I almost forgot about the code manual. I felt relieved. For a change of scenery, we took the code manual into the den and laid down on the floor to search for the answer to the missing keys. Mom brought us some drinks and we commenced to reading the manual. But after 30 minutes of thorough searching, we didn't have any answer. Now, the manual had suggestions on how to have keyless coded messages, but after trying all of their suggestions, we couldn't find a way to unlock the codes. We tried breaking them by assuming the name of the month was the first word, and then by using one of their names, Joyce, Henry, or Jim, but nothing worked. After studying the 10 remaining messages, we did find one similarity. All 10 began with one of 3 numbers, a 1, a 5, or a 10. Mom suggested that we get out of the house and go do something different, so that maybe, when we came back, we might think of something to break the codes. That sounded good to us, so we decided to take the decoder badge down to Dad and Mr. Parks and see if they had any ideas on deciphering the other messages. Let's ride down to the Melba first to see what's playing this weekend, Logan suggested. I've been asking Mr. Tatum when he was going to show Spider-Man, and he said he thought it was coming this weekend or next. Logan was seriously into movies. The Melba Theater always put up the Movie of the Week poster on Tuesday afternoons, so we took off for Lower Main Street to see what was playing. The Melba was another relic that was able to survive only in places like Batesville, where nostalgia was highly valued. There was a Cineplex in the newer part of town where the newest releases were shown, but if you could wait a few weeks, the Melba would show it on a bigger screen in a larger theater and at a better price. And Dad, wanting to support Main Street businesses, considered it treason to go anywhere else. We made it down to the theater just as Mr. Tatum was putting up Spider-Man posters in the window. Finally! I'm definitely coming Saturday night, Logan said. Will your parents let you see it, Logan? Logan was well aware that my parents were very strict about what movies I was allowed to watch. I think it'll be all right. Dad's not worried about violence as much as he is cussing. I wondered if Mr. Tatum will dress up like Spider-Man. Remember when he dressed up like a spider for that movie, Eight-Legged Freaks? Sumner said, simulating fangs with his fingers. Yeah, that was cool, Logan said, pretending to stick his fingers into my throat. Let's get going to the store, I ordered, pushing Logan away. Mr. Parks leaves at 3 o'clock, and I was wanting to show him the decoder. We pedaled 3 blocks back up to the hardware store and leaned our bikes against the plate glass and went inside. Dad was with a customer, as usual, and Mr. Parks was nowhere in sight. We decided to go back where the live bait was kept and play with the minnows until Dad was finished. Dad got through quicker this time and came back to see if we had any news. Hey guys, how's the spy business going? Dad said, half teasing. Mr. Parks was right. The kids who wrote the messages were using a Captain Midnight decoder, and we found it, I proclaimed, holding up the badge for Dad to see. You found it? I can't believe it. Dad was astonished as he reached for the decoder. Did you find it down the chimney? Nope. We looked there first, and then we searched my whole room. I began the story. We were about to give up when Ben noticed one side of the desk was narrower than the other. That's when we realized that there was a secret compartment, Logan said, interrupting me. I took a protractor and pried the board loose, and that's when we found the secret decoder. Sumner completed the story. Along with 37 cents, a code manual, and some marbles, Logan tagged on. Just then, a customer came into the back of the store wanting some minnows. Why don't you boys go up front and I'll meet you up there? I want to hear the rest, Dad said, excusing himself to wait on the customer. Is Mr. Parks here? I asked. No, he had to leave a little early today, but I'm sure he'll be excited to hear your news. We walked toward the front to wait while Dad was scooping up minnows and putting them in a white styrofoam bucket. Mom's grandfather clock was just striking 3 o'clock when we passed through the furniture section. The chime was loud and long and seemed to demand the attention of all who were in the store. We called it Mom's because she had picked the clock out herself and ordered it for the store to try and sell. Less than secretly, she hoped it wouldn't sell, and that Dad would let her take it home and put it in our living room. It was a nice clock, with a really neat face, with Roman numerals and a window that displayed the different phases of the moon. This was Sumner's favorite part. He was crazy about the moon. All kinds of space stuff covered the walls of his room. He had his own telescope that stood at his bedroom window, and maps of the moon and stars plastered all over his bed. Sumner made his way over to the clock to see if Dad had set the phases correctly. This clock is still not right. When is your dad going to set this thing? Sumner asked, studying the clock's face. I couldn't tell him what to set it on if he wanted me to. You've got to nag him, I encouraged. Maybe you can get him to set it this afternoon when we're close up, but you'll have to get him to read the instruction manual. You know how dads avoid reading manuals. We moved away from the clock and again headed for the front of the store when Sumner called us to come back. Hey guys, look at this. It didn't hit me until just now looking at the face of this clock. Take a close look, Sumner said, challenging us to figure out what he was talking about. What? The moon? Logan guessed, quickly losing patience. It has nothing to do with the moon. Look at the numbers, Sumner hinted. They're Roman numerals. What about it? I quipped. Look, the Roman numerals 1 through 12 are really made up of only 3 numbers, 1, 5, and 10. The same thing is true even for numbers up to 26. They're still just combinations of 1, 5, or 10. Are you talking about the coded messages now? Logan asked, starting to catch on. All the rest of the messages start with 1, a 5, or a 10. Maybe the key is double encoded. 1 would be an I, 5 would be a V, and 10 would be an X. That would give you the letter of the key. Just then, Dad caught up with us at Mom's clock. Now, I want to hear the rest. Have you used the decoder on any of the messages yet? Dad questioned. We decoded 5 of them this afternoon, but there are 10 left that we have no key code to, I answered. But we think we might have just figured it out, Logan cut in. Well, you mean I may have just figured it out, Sumner corrected Logan. What were the first 5 messages about? Dad was curious. Some girl named Joyce was kidnapped by some guy named Ivan. A secret meeting down at the railroad tracks, I began. And something about keeping packages safe. Logan was not going to forget about the packages. All the messages were written to or by someone named Henry, Sumner added. Wow, it sounded like some pretty mysterious stuff. Dad was genuinely intrigued. He reminded me of Logan. Dad, it's just a story made up by some kids, I chided. There's no real mystery. Well, sure there is. Maybe not in the story itself, but there's plenty of mystery. Who are these kids that wrote these messages? Why were the messages in the decoder left in our house for the last 50 or 60 years? That's a real mystery. You think we could find out who these kids were that wrote the messages? I questioned. Well, maybe. Of course, those kids would now be 60 or 70 years old, Dad remarked. They might even still live in Batesville. You could probably find out who lived in our house over the past 100 years by going down to the courthouse. William and Helen might also be able to help you do some research down at the newspaper. Mr. and Mrs. Jackson? I questioned. The Jacksons were our across-the-street neighbors and also happened to be the grandparents of our next-door neighbor, Trevor, Jared, and Lauren. Mr. Jackson was a retired lawyer who seemed to spend most of his time hunting and fishing, while Mrs. Jackson still worked, at least part-time, at the Batesville Daily Times, the newspaper that had been in their family for 3 generations. When she wasn't working at the paper, she was busy working out in the garden. Their home was a massive Victorian, with a large garden that sprawled over 3 or 4 lots. But though they had money, they were very down to earth. They've lived in Batesville most of their lives and might even know the history of the neighborhood. Even if they don't, they might be able to help you do some research down at the newspaper. I bet Mrs. Jackson would love to help you with your investigation. We might want to do that tomorrow, Dad, but I think we're going to head back to the house and try Sumner's theory for decoding the messages. I'll be back at 5 to help you close up. All right, boys, I'll see you at 5. I hope you figure it out. We headed out the door to our bikes and raced off back to the house. I thought about what Dad had said as we made our way up to 7th and over across water, to think about those children living in our neighborhood 2 generations ago. Who were they, and where were they now? Why would they leave the decoder and the money and other things? They had to be something of value. If you could buy a candy bar back then for a nickel, as my grandfather had told me many times, then 37 cents would be too much for a kid to leave behind. Dad was right. Maybe there was a real mystery to be solved.